Morning, Neil Sean here in the very heart of London, telling you exactly what happened on this day in history. As ever, there's so much. Now, I don't know about you, but way back in the 90s, before, do you remember when we used to go and get video cassettes? There were big stores, weren't there, remember, where you borrow them for the night, then put them in an envelope or in the drop box, which seems so ancient now, doesn't it? Back in 1997, of course, videos were all the rage, weren't we? Everybody bought videos, and then of course DVDs were coming along, and we all had to get rid of those and transfer. How boring is it, don't you think? But there was a man truly behind all of that who ended up being a global icon in that field. We're talking about Reed Hastings. He's the man really who started it all big, if you like, over in the United States. That's because now he is the founder, if you like, of Netflix, the streaming giant. Yes, the employers of Harry and Meghan, no less. As I say, he started that particular venture way back in 1997. And as all the videos and the DVDs faded out and the lesser people borrowing and now copying, they created what we now know as a streaming digital service. A lot of people, when they first started it, said, oh, it won't take off, people simply won't download it. Of course, they had their eye on the prize. They knew that this was the future. People were moving forward to that. Now, while we don't physically own the product, how many of us still have lots of VHSs and DVDs because we bought the box sets? You know the ones I'm talking about. Prime Suspect, Friends, Duchess of Duke Street. Yes, you find them all now, don't you, in the charity shops, so cheap. And when you think what you paid all that time back, oh yes. Anyway, back as ever to what else happened on this day in history. A phenomenal lady was born on this day, 1915. And if I said the words Casablanca, Humphrey Bogart, who else do you think of? Oh, that's right, the beautiful Ingrid Bergman. Now, the Swedish actress was really known for a natural charm, intelligence and vitality. And boy, did she have lots of it. She was a huge star, but then got wrapped up in what we call today a scandal. But when you look at what the scandal was in today's terms, it was incredibly lukewarm. She had a successful career also in theatre. Hard to believe, but I found a poster recently when I was down in Brighton in Sussex, where she appeared at the Theatre Royal there in a play. How wonderful would that have been to see Ingrid Bergman on the stage? Now, one TV show that I absolutely adored growing up, and I don't know if you remember it in your part of the world, but it was called Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous. And really it was a reality TV show, but we loved it because it took us with celebrities where, you sort of went on their yacht or in their mega house. I remember seeing so many, Tony Curtis, Lana Turner, you name it, and it was hosted by a man who was born on this day, Robin Leach. British, of course, but put on that sort of fake accent, which worked incredibly well and made people think he was a friend of the stars, which he became, obviously after appearing on the show. Very well loved. The TV show is such fun. It's such a shame that they don't re-show that, wherever that is now, I'm sure people would love to look back on that with a lot of affection. It was on this day, way back in 1949, that one of my favourite actors, who I was lucky enough to interview on numerous occasions, just a brilliant actor, all-round director, actor, superstar, founder of radio, Richard Attenborough, fondly known as Dickie, but also what was interesting with him, he could burst into tears at the drop of a hat. He was a bit of a lovey, and he knew it, but he knew that it was kind of fun also. He signed on the dotted line to star in a very big movie on this day, which was a colossal hit. And when you think about it, now it's become a seminal classic, Brighton Rock. And it was one of those early gangster films, a British film, and it was one of those things that even today, while you may look at it and think it looks slightly dated, the story is basically the same. The only things that have changed now are the fact that we have mobile phones and people are slightly more, shall we say, trendier dressed for teenagers. But Brighton Rock became a massive hit for Richard Attenborough, and of course a firm favourite with the royal family. For younger people, you may of course know him for his work with Ben Kingsley, where he directed and produced and assisted in every possible form on the mega movie that was Gandhi. Way back in 1967, around about this time, we lost a genius in the musical world, Brian Epstein, the manager of the Beatles. Bit of a mystery, nobody really knows exactly what went on that night. I have to tell you a fun story though. I was lucky enough to host an evening with, after a show called Epstein, based on Brian's life in London. And I was lucky enough to meet his partner, business partner, and we interviewed him on stage. The stories that he said were pretty phenomenal. What you have to remember though is, Brian Epstein was one of a kind, And he was the very first pop manager that really kind of kicked off with all the merchandise, the Beatles wigs, the talcum powders, everything like that. And as John Lennon and Paul McCartney famously said, he was slightly out of his depth because nobody had actually done that before. When you think about it, possibly true. Sadly, yes, we lost him on this day, so let's give a thought to a man that really did change the face of music, not just with the Beatles, of course, but with the likes of Jerry and the Pacemakers, Brian Poole and the Tremolos, and the late and very talented Cilla Black. Finally, on this day, a lady that I was lucky enough to meet and interview in person, who became a very good friend. A lady that really changed the face of children's TV, along with her husband, Gerry Anderson, Sylvia Anderson. For a generation, of course, lots of people remember with great affection Thunderbirds, but there were so many more, weren't they, series, you know, Space 1999, Joe 90, all came in super animation or whatever it was called. I loved it, and she was absolutely fabulous. Let me tell you, she told me that on this day, that was the very first meeting she had with the TV mogul Lou Grade. And what happened was, they didn't even have a sort of, you know, video or anything like that, any film. They sketched him out the idea. He said, okay, go May and make me 12 episodes. And that was the deal. There was no contract, just a firm handshake, and suddenly Sylvia and Gerry were in the TV business. Wouldn't it be nice to have moguls like that in today's world? You'd normally go through lots and lots of meetings, and then as Meghan Markle found out, of course, sadly for her, they bin it at the 11th hour because suddenly they don't like it anymore. But on a lighter note, of course, Sylvia Anderson went on to have great success. There is a book out there if you want to get it via Amazon. Fascinating read on exactly how they made those puppets. I also quickly got to tell you, I interviewed Cliff and Hank from The Shadows, Hank Marvin, and they never kept their Thunderbirds puppets. They were furious that they didn't when they appeared in it. They said that as they were leaving the studio, they found them in a skip on the way out, but they didn't think to dare ask if they could keep them. Just imagine how much they would be worth in today's money. You're up to date with everything that happened on this day in history. And as ever, will I see you tomorrow? Neil Sean in the very heart of London.